The Trump administration is reportedly exploring a plan that would more than double the current annual limit for refugee admissions, specifically to resettle larger numbers of white South Africans, particularly Afrikaners. This potential shift comes after the administration already slashed the refugee ceiling from 125,000 to a historic low of 7,500 for fiscal year 2026, a move that effectively halted resettlement for thousands of already vetted refugees from regions such as Afghanistan, Syria, and Ukraine. Officials familiar with the discussions say the proposal under consideration would raise the cap by an additional 10,000 slots, bringing the total to roughly 17,500 refugees per year. The increase would be explicitly earmarked for individuals identified as Afrikaners or white South Africans, a demographic the administration has repeatedly highlighted in public statements. The rationale offered by administration officials hinges on a characterization of South Africa's government as a DEI regime par excellence, a phrase used by Andrew Veprek, Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration, during a recent event with the Center for Immigration Studies. Veprek argued that resettling Afrikaners serves an important signaling function in the president's broader campaign against diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Echoing this view, Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff and a chief architect of the administration's immigration policy, told reporters that the situation facing white farmers and Afrikaners in South Africa fits the textbook definition of persecution that the refugee program was designed to address. Miller framed the issue as racial persecution, a claim that South African officials and prominent Afrikaner leaders have strongly denied, insisting there is no systematic campaign of violence against white citizens. Despite the administration's narrative, data released by the State Department paints a stark picture of the current refugee intake. In the first 6 months of fiscal year 2026, the United States admitted approximately 4,500 refugees who identified as white South Africans. By contrast, only 3 refugees from Afghanistan were admitted during the same period, and no other nationalities appeared in the statistics. This concentration underscores how the refugee program has been reoriented under the current policy direction. Critics argue that the shift represents a radical departure from the program's traditional humanitarian basis, which has historically prioritized individuals fleeing war, persecution, and catastrophe regardless of ethnicity or religion. Beth Oppenheim, CEO of HIAS, the nation's oldest refugee agency, warned that the policy leaves behind countless vulnerable populations, including Afghan allies, Iranian religious minorities, and hundreds of Jews who face severe threats in their home countries. Oppenheim stressed that abandoning these groups undermines the United States' moral leadership and betrays the core promise of the refugee system. The administration's actions extend beyond admissions numbers. Shortly after taking office, the White House canceled previously arranged refugee flights, stranding thousands of individuals who had completed all necessary vetting and were ready to depart. Homeland Security also signaled intentions to terminate humanitarian protections for tens of thousands of Afghans who fled after the 2021 U.S. withdrawal, citing alleged improvements in Afghanistan security and a rise in tourism, a justification that refugee advocates dismiss as unfounded. Further compounding the impact, the administration has moved to cut financial aid and healthcare coverage for refugees and resettlement agencies. The president's domestic spending package eliminated access to Medicaid, Medicare, children's health insurance, and emergency food assistance for many refugees, effectively stripping away essential support systems at a time when newcomers are most vulnerable. In May, the first group of 59 white South Africans arrived in the United States under the refugee designation. President Trump publicly celebrated their arrival, stating that the United States had essentially extended citizenship to them. This event was framed as a fulfillment of the administration's pledge to prioritize Afrikaner refugees, even as the overall refugee ceiling remained at record lows. The policy shift has ignited a broader debate about the role of ideology in immigration decisions. Opponents contend that linking refugee admissions to racial or ethnic preferences erodes the principle of neutrality and risks turning humanitarian aid into a tool for political signaling. Supporters, however, maintain that the administration is correcting a perceived imbalance and offering protection to a group they believe faces genuine peril. As the White House weighs the final decision on whether to raise the refugee cap, The outcome will shape not only the number of individuals who can find safety in the United States but also signal how the nation balances humanitarian obligations with political objectives. The coming months will likely see intensified advocacy from both sides, with refugee organizations urging a return to needs-based criteria and administration officials defending their approach as a necessary response to specific claims of persecution. Ultimately, the controversy highlights a fundamental question: should the United States refugee program serve as a blanket sanctuary for those in danger regardless of identity, or can it be selectively tailored to advance particular political narratives? The answer will reverberate far beyond the immediate statistics, influencing America's reputation as a leader in global protection for the displaced.